9:30 a.m. at Krefeld. All I've done is pushed the Hanoverians. They're trying to make that outflank. They are not allowed to use this bridge in the game. They needed to roll a 1 to be able to find it. Essentially, they don't know about it. So I'm going to try the major outflank. Now, most of their units ended up ineffective. In fact, everything except Lochner, who is those pale green units up there, and Ferdinand was able to take command of one of his infantry wings and move them a little faster, which is cool because it's really better to have the infantry up front, I think. The cost for activating the French army is very high. It's 4 morale points to take a roll, and I didn't think that was worth the option, so I'm going to just let them sit there. My expectation right now with Hanover is perhaps to come running, try to move through these woods. I got to look at the woods special rules because I think that disorders units and may cause some problems. That's an optional rule. You'll notice one thing I'm not doing is I'm not playing with the hidden wings optional rule. For the French, they're not allowed any dummies, so there's not a lot of reason to, and they're allowed to cover more ground if they set up deployed without them. So there wasn't much question that they weren't going to use them. For the Hanoverians, you would think that this is a perfect situation because I'm trying to bluff my way through, but the truth of the matter is the French army is not allowed to move unless they take that huge morale penalty. So whatever bluff there is seems pretty low to me right now. Whatever value there is to that. And it's going to be pretty obvious. I mean, everything is close enough to begin with that it's not like I'm going to be doing two different things. Now, yeah, I could have left a bunch of units over here, either dummy or non-dummy, to make it look like there was still a threat over there, so that when the French army does finally activate, they might choose, do they pull down and cover everything, or do they leave a defense up there? Probably would have been a cool idea, but it didn't seem worth the effort. When I first looked at it, I said, well, there's no way to attack reasonably across that wall. And yeah, maybe I made a slight mistake there, but this scenario doesn't look like it has much maneuvering ground. You really do want to pull the Hanoverians around the back. The only question is how much you confuse the French, whether or not they can pull everything off this line here. I don't know. We'll see. Start of the 11 o'clock turn, not much has changed. I've just pushed some of the Hanoverians over as they continue their path. The French are still not rolling. 11:30, still pushing through that swamp. Not a pleasant thing. Trying to stay with outside of the 3 hexes that'll activate that unit. Don't really want to let it get out of there. So I was wrong. They are hour-long turns. They just start on the half hour. I thought it was a different scale for some reason. Anyway, the Hanoverians are pushing through that swamp still. They got to the edge. The French detachment managed to get a movement option before the Hanoverians could deploy. But I looked at the values, and even with the bonus for attacking in column, it was just too bad an odds result. This is a tiny little unit. I'm going to leave it there as a speed bump because the more I can delay this advance, I think the better it is for the French, even at the cost of a unit. It's not a very valuable unit. It doesn't have sniping abilities, whatever, and it's going to force either a deployment or I don't even know if you can attack from column. So I'll have to look that up because that might be an option. Is just try to overwhelm it in column. You have to move a whole wing into deployed status at a time, so it's a fairly expensive operation. All right. Prussians ran into some march problems. Combination of the march debacle, which means two of their columns, and that's the two lead ones, as picked by the French, are limited to 2 movement hexes, and dragging guns, which reduces all their artillery to 2 hexes, which really didn't mean much because the artillery is towards the front. So they did launch one little attack. They got disordered walking into the woods. They launched a little attack on that detachment, and the detachment withdrew from combat. They advanced into the town, and then the French continued their withdrawal. They're playing a waiting game here. They may well lose that detachment, but they're going to try to delay as much as possible with it. Meanwhile, one of their other detachments, they've pulled behind the lines. Let me see if I can... There it is. And that'll try to protect the rear, probably. The other one's staying where it is, just in case, for some reason, the Hanoverians decide to wheel their army back and attack from that direction. It'll give them some warning, at least. And that's about it. We'll see. Beginning of 2:30, I had grand plans for swinging around, but quite simply, there's not enough time. Now, this is about when the battle scenario actually began. And it, I guess, presumes that the Hanoverians did not have the trouble marching that I've had. They launched their attack on sort of this peninsula in the defensular. Defensular? Nice word. In the defense, where there aren't any troops allowed to begin with. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I pushed over into the woods here, took some disorders. The Austrians, I had a roll for that. The Austrians have a unit that's disordered, which might regain morale. Once again, the detachment up front withdrew from combat twice. The other detachment's still going around that backside. It's less important, but there wasn't time to get it in where it could be useful.